All right, good morning, folks. How's it going out there? Welcome back here to a Monday morning start of the work week. Here is upon us November 17th, 2025 is the date, 10:16 a.m. That's local time here in California. Latest activity here on the globe shows a 1.7 across Southern California. Looks like it's around the La Quinta area. Upgraded there to a 1.8 by the USGS. Pretty good cluster of earthquake activity around the Borrego Springs in the last couple days. Also some movement up here along the Garlock Fault shear zone and the San Andreas Fault, this little interchange here. Still seeing quite a bit of activity south into the Baja California region. Yesterday, a bunch of adjustment taking place here. Also looks like some newer activity in the Nicaragua area this morning. Actually within the last hour here, 5.3. That one fairly deep here into the Middle America Trench. I'm starting to think we may see some larger activity out here across the Middle America Trench, just the way things have been elevated out here in this area yesterday. Just kind of ramped up all over the place across these faults, the plate boundary off here in the Pacific. Normally when things take place out here, we'll see an uptick in the Middle America Trench area. That's just the way the general plate stress movement happens here. A lot of activity within the Cocos Plate and the Nazca Plate boundary, also the Pacific Plate along with those two. We're stirring up out here yesterday. So increasing movement down here. South America area. A number of quakes there from yesterday. I don't see any uptick going on there today yet. But of course that's another area of concern when we get major movement offshore like that. 4.2, I think that came in late. Yeah, just around midnight or so yesterday. I was in the Dominican Republic area. Not a big quake, but a little shaking going on out there around the around that region. Let's go ahead and zoom in here to the west coast, see if we got anything else to chat about aside from our movement down south here. There's that earthquake activity down into the Baja California region. The last earthquake above 2.7 looks to be up in the creeping section of the San Andreas Fault. I don't see any major movement happening out here for now. The Bay Area pretty quiet, not a whole lot showing up here. It almost seems like the swarm area is just halted right here, right as the San Jacinto Fault Zone runs into the San Andreas Fault. Just things are stuck. Northern California, pretty quiet. Not a whole lot going on. Up into Washington and Oregon, a handful of earthquakes up there. A little cluster out here around this region of Washington. Not anything big. These are just very small microquakes. I was just looking at the Mount Rainier seismograph station up there, seeing if we got any earthquake activity across that volcano, but taking a peek here, there's not a whole lot. There's some microquake activity there on the chart today and from yesterday, but no major uptick going on there for now. That's at Mount Rainier, the Mount St. Helens area. Go ahead and check this out as well, see what's going on up there, which shows us, not a whole lot, just some, maybe a couple smaller microquakes out there in the in this time period. Nothing big, no major uptick going on there across the volcanoes for now. Yellowstone National Park, nothing showing up here. Quick glance at the seismograph station there, the recorded view shows that there's not a whole lot going on up there. Maybe a couple smaller microquakes here around the 7 o'clock time period. Not even for sure exactly where that's at. Not over around this area certainly, but maybe over around the Idaho area, seeing some smaller microquake activity. But it's pretty quiet up there for now. Oil fields of Texas still rocking and rolling. Nothing new out there, just a rinse and repeat cycle of earthquakes. In fact, if you look at the last 30 days of activity out here, it's been relatively light. 709 earthquakes might seem like a lot, but normally out here on a 30-day period, we're up above 1,000 or so. And the majority of these are, again, very small, the largest being a 3.4 back over here in this cluster outside of Pecos, Texas. Just massive amounts of oil fields out there. New Madrid seismic zone. Looks like a couple earthquakes there. One this morning and one from yesterday, late last night. 2.3 being the latest and largest so far. That's a major area of potential for large earthquake activity. All right, let's take a look here at the earthquake 3D globe. As far as newer adjustment goes, still seeing a lot of activity here across the Kuril-Kamchatka. There's that super deep earthquake underneath the Sea of Osk. Some further adjustment going on upstream. Nothing big for now. One area that's gone surprisingly absolutely quiet from all of this movement yesterday is up here around the Japan region. The Nankai Trough hasn't seen anything happening around it. Japan Trench here has also gone quiet. Further newer and deeper activity here south of the Philippines region, so watch that. Looks like it's around the let's see where that earthquake's at. There's a couple of them. Look at that one, 4.6, 91 miles deep underneath this area south of Manila. That might have something to do there with the Manila Trench. A couple other earthquakes in there as well, but there's a really deep one showing up on the globe. It's going to be this ring that's raised well off there. Kind of hard to spot, but it looks like it's down across the, I don't know, the Banda Sea region maybe. Molucca Sea, probably around where this earthquake struck here this morning, a 5.3. But definitely getting some deeper adjustment with the Philippines sitting right in the middle of all that. So watch that region maybe for some further movement, further escalation of movement there. New Zealand, 5-pointer, down across that triple point boundary of 3 different plates, right on it. Nothing major going on there across New Zealand for now, but let's see what else we got. Turkey still swarming out there. The Atlantic Ocean pretty quiet, aside from a 3-pointer, 3.5 along that triple point boundary. Pretty good cluster. I still think something's brewing out here, though, with all this movement happening yesterday. Like I said, I'm really surprised we didn't see any larger movement here overnight, but it still may be brewing. These earthquakes happening out here underneath the Pacific, and it's got to do with, I'm sure, a lot of convection going on underneath the area that's stirring up the plates. Someone mentioned here, that maybe it has something to do with the space weather activity here 5 days ago, and it's possible if you really think about it. Getting slammed by a solar storm like that. Should it be instant? I think so when the earthquake activity, or when there's potential for large earthquake activity. I don't see it waiting 5 days, a week, 2 weeks. At least in my view. One would think here, as the magnetosphere is getting slammed by a CME, or the ionosphere is getting charged by protons, it should almost be instant. That time period, or that window of uptick, is just kind of, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for this morning, but it just seems a little odd to have to say, well, we have to, now it's a week past, look what we're seeing, all the uptick. Not really. I don't believe that. I don't see any large earthquake activity happening. Yes, there is some uptick that was stirring up yesterday, and there's still some today, but I don't think it's got to do with the space weather activity 5 days ago. Possible. But as far as, the instant or soon thereafter type of elevated activity that I'm looking for, right? Because anyone could say, yeah, look, 3 months down the road, we have an 8-pointer out here. Look, and that was because of the space weather we had, 3 months ago. That doesn't make sense, does it? Anyone could say anything and put a number on it, but when it comes to looking at the facts and statistics here, I think waiting for 4 to 5 days it doesn't seem reasonable. But definitely some earthquake activity, regardless of the space weather activity. Alaska, looking a little quiet up there. Let's see here, that was a little weird. Nothing major going on. In fact, there's only maybe one or two earthquakes up there outside of Denali National Park. That is on a fault system up here. Park Road Fault, Northern Foothills Fold and Thrust Belt. So we get some activity on that. Watch the Denali fault here. That's a major fault system. I don't recall the last time we've seen a big earthquake out there. Kind of curious to see. Let's go take a look. Take a little trip back in history here on this Monday. I'm sure there's going to be a lot out here, but I just want to see when the last, decent sized earthquake was up there. Since it is, a major a major fault system. Let's see if I got that right. Picked up some decent rain overnight, about a half an inch or so. I was hoping for some more, but it just didn't happen. So specifically along the Denali fault, again, that's a fairly lengthy one, and I'm sure it didn't rupture the entirety here, but there was almost a near 8-pointer back in 2002. That was a pretty big earthquake. What was it do in 2002? For some reason, that skipped my mind there. Not for sure about that. But, yeah, pretty shallow. It was definitely a big quake. I want to see how much it ruptured out here. Let's see here. Slip rate on the Denali Fault since the last glacier period, 10,000 years before present, has averaged about 10 mm per year. That's actually pretty slow of a slip rate. See, a 6 meter displacement would require 600 years of strain accumulation. And this did have, it looks like a 6 to 8 offset there with right lateral slip going on. So I don't think we'll see another big earthquake specifically in this area, because it does take quite a bit of time to build up. But yeah, definitely that's fairly lengthy there. So that was this is just comparison to the San Andreas fault. This is the Alaska Denali fault. It looks like it ruptured a good distance there, maybe the good portion of the Denali fault, because if this is going to be 100 miles or so, we're talking a good length up here. So I don't think we'll see anything big on that one for now. There was another one north here, 7.3 back in 1912. But Alaska, it's full of big-time potential out here. I'm just kind of curious to see what that looked like, since we were getting a little bit of activity on it, or just north of there. But aside from that, general earthquake activity, typical for now up there across the Alaska area. Nevada, we got some movement out there in Nevada. It is, what is that, little 2.8 here in the last 20 minutes or so. Nothing big going on there for now. But I would watch this area out here, folks, the way things were stirring up out here. The Middle America Trench looks to be maybe the prime area with all this recent movement happening. All right, let's go ahead and check out space weather activity, see if we got anything of interest out here. Let's see here. Flare threat has been dropped like a rock there. I kind of bumped mine up a little bit yesterday just because of the way, 4284 grew like crazy. That's going to be the sunspot right here. The latest imagery. We're back to being slow here. We'll check this out. See what it looks like today. Sometimes it loads fast. Sometimes it's slow. It just all depends. See, there's 4284 right there. It looks like it wants to separate here in this core, that magnetic structure. But it still looks fairly complex when you look at the zoomed in view of it. So I still think we might have some potential there for some stronger flaring. Nothing in the X flare department, but maybe a low-grade M flare that we'll have to keep a watchful eye on for this one. Not a whole lot coming around the eastern limb, and it's just kind of quiet now. Now that that massive sunspot area is on the far side, we'll see if that hangs on, and maybe we'll see it back out here in a couple weeks. No major roar activity stirring up for now. Things are pretty quiet out there. The detailed forecast out here shows very minimal conditions. Not really expecting much. We do have a coronal hole number 96 here. This is an older image, by the way. This shows latest, but that's not. 96 should be more centered disk here of the sun. That you can kind of see it right here in the UV image. Very small coronal hole. Most of the time out here, when it seems as though, this is just the thought process out here on my observation of the space weather and earthquake relationship. It seems as though we got to have a decent sized coronal hole facing us where those magnetic lines shoot out, and it does seem to affect the planet almost like immediately or shortly thereafter, like a day. But like I say, it's not going to take 5 days, just... That's like saying California is going to have an earthquake in 300 years. We could have multiple earthquakes in 300 years. But just looking at, the comparison there. Well, either way, we got a little bitty coronal hole facing us. And we'll see what happens today with that. It is, pretty much center disk of the sun. We'll see what happens here. Severe weather. See if we got anything major going on here. Actually, before we do that, let me check out the asteroids here. See if there's anything of close approach. Always like to double check that just in case something pops up like this. That's pretty close, 63,000 miles. That's well within the Earth-Moon distance. But that's 14-foot. 14-foot size rock out there. That probably make a neat little fireball, but that's about it. Even if that were to enter into the atmosphere. But that's still a distance right there. All these, well, look at that one, 330 building size asteroid. That's been tracked since 2022. Coming in today at 4 million miles or more, a little bit more there. I'd say we're okay for now. Severe weather, thunderstorm activity out here around my neck of the woods southward into the San Joaquin Valley area, a little bit down there across the Arizona area. Got a, looks like a wind, is it wind or hail? Hail threat today out there across Missouri. Nothing big going on there for now, but a little bit of thunderstorm activity. Numerical models, here's our precipitation maker right now. That's going to move south and give Southern California a little bit more rain. We got one more system coming out here towards Wednesday and Thursday. Not really impressed with that, but it's doing the exact same thing that this last low pressure system did. Cut off low, and it loops around here across Southern California, and then just this one's a little bit less potent in terms of moisture, though, for Southern California, but it's following that same track there. So I'm sure any more moisture out there for them will be a good thing. And see, this model is different now. This is completely changed from last night. The previous run, a couple previous runs here, showed a massive cool pull of air coming down here. I've seen a lot of people posting about it. The November freeze coming up here. That looks like it's changed, but then again, it could change, right back to that. But I'll take this weather model instead because it's showing more moisture coming in here across Northern California through the end of November. I'll definitely take that. And then maybe some cold air coming back behind that. But we'll see how it plays out. No major earthquake activity on the seismograph stations there for now. Looks like a little one down there in Southern California, but let's see here. It's probably going to be this little 0.8. Not a 8, but a 0.8. That's a really small microquake. Anyway, folks, enjoy your Monday. Member drawing is coming up here in 3 days. If you can, try to jump on board. We're doing, if we're above, what a great time to lose my voice. If we're above 150 members, we'll continue to pick out 3 winners like we did last time. If we're below that, we'll do 2. And I'm not for sure exactly what we're at right now, but let me check here real quick. Stand by for just a second, and I'll pull up this screen back up here so you guys could see. All right, memberships. See more. All right, let me pull this up so you guys can see here. Display capture. Ding. There we go. We're at 145, so we dropped a little bit. Looks like we lost 7 or 8 members or so. If we can get that back up there above 150, we'll pick out 3. Right now, we're picking out 2 if it stays at that level. But these are newest members out here. We'll give a quick shout out to our members. It's been a little while. 41 months. Top of the list, nonstop. Hasn't missed 1 month of subscription. Robert Kozowski. Crazy. Joined 41 months ago. Albert Sanchez just under that. Well, still at 41 months. Rejoined 22 months ago. Thank you there, Albert. Rob52. 41 months as well. Some other long-standing continuous members, Diniad and Pamela Conley. 40 months of continuous membership there. Appreciate that. Quite a bit of folks out here. As you can see, Nancy, Purple Bullet, Hurricane Heather, Mike Moses, Clayton, and the list goes on and on. Not going to read all of them, but we appreciate all the members out here. There's a lot to go through. Back when I only had about 50 or 60, I could read through all of these, but 145 of them, that'd be a whole nother update, whole nother video. But we do appreciate it. Our current, let's see what we got here. Newest members right now. Looks like we got a new member today. 6 Kids UK. Angela Self. 1 day. Burton Weinstein. 3 days. Selena Hurt. And the list goes on and on. But all these folks here will be entered into our member drawing that we do here on the 20th of each month. So jump on board, see if you can get to win some prizes when we pick out the 2 winners. Like I said, if we get above 150, we'll do 3 again. I think we could do that. We got 3 days there, so. Alrighty, have a good one. We'll see you guys out here for the Monday night update. Unless something major happens, kind of a wait and see scenario today. A lot of movement happening out here across this area, and like I said, I'm really shocked that we didn't see anything overnight in terms of larger movement out here. It still may happen. There was just a little, I can't say a little bit, moderate 5.3 there in the Nicaragua area just over an hour ago. So things are increasing out here. Just be on guard. We'll catch you guys out here a little bit later on. Have a good one.